Can I buy some land and build my own house on it myself without having to get a mortgage? Mortgages are tools to help you afford to build a home or buy a house. If you have the cash to do so without such a tool, then you don't need it. There's no requirement to have one. You do have to pay property taxes. For things like the police and the fire department, those are not optional. Acquiring land and building a house is about as expensive as buying a house in most cases. If you have the cash, you can buy stuff. A mortgage is a loan, it's just a special kind of loan that is secured by property. If you don't need to borrow money, then don't borrow. In many US places you do have to deal with getting permits from the local government. You can't just show up and start building anything you feel like. But nobody cares if you pay for stuff yourself or if you borrow the money. There are always property taxes in the US. You or the seller pay sales or transfer taxes when you buy property, and you pay property taxes every year. You might have installments to pay monthly or quarterly. If you don't need to borrow money, you don't have a mortgage, but there's always taxes. A mortgage for what? The 50K? If you want to borrow it, why would you think it's not legal to build a house? It has to be decoded. You still need to get the permission to build a house. But yes, you don't need MPRT gauge. If I won 100 mil lottery, I just can buy the whole neighborhood without lending money from the bank. A mortgage is simply a way to borrow money to buy a house that is more expensive than you can afford based on how much savings you have. If you can afford all of the costs without borrowing, you do not require a mortgage. While what you propose is something that can be done legally, there are steps you have to take to make it legal. And in some cases you might need friends and family with specific legal qualifications to do certain parts of the design-build work in order to do so legally. The most difficult of these steps is actually getting permission to build the house you want on the land you want. A lot of land that is cheap for a reason. It is not legal to build anything on it. Getting permission to build on the land you have may be anywhere in the range from fill some annoying paperwork and pay some fees to the answer is no. To figure out where on that scale you are, you really need to get specific information on the specific land and legal status of that land, and get advice from someone who actually knows what they are talking about, which is not going to happen by posting on Reddit. Legally, you likely will have to get permits, and you will also likely need to find someone to level the land correctly. You also have to pay some to lay plumbing, sewer, water, and electrical to your house. You can buy house kits, but I definitely would get a plumber and electrician in to do those things. You need an architect, CS engineer, and me engineer to design the house for you and apply for all the necessary permits. The cost of the consultancy isn't minor. A mortgage is just a loan. If you don't need it, then you don't need it. Just like how you may not need a car loan to buy a car or student loans to afford college tuition. Yes, the house would also need to be up to code, and you'd need to make sure you aren't breaching any local council regulations either. But if you have the money to pay for that, or happen to know what you're doing, then all you'd need to pay would be property taxes. On a vacant piece of land, unless already paid, you have to pay the township development fees, entrance fee, permits, lot survey, building permit, hydro installation, and it goes on and on. The cost of building these days can easily be $400 to $500 per square foot of house. In my country, you don't need mortgage, but you need approval to build a house. You need to give in the plans on advance. When they are approved, you can do it by your own. But safety works need to be done, or at least checked and documented by professionals, etc. Electrics, otherwise you get in real problem if it burns down due to construction mistakes. This country is Germany, FYI. My uncle did this 30-ish years ago, and the only part of his house he didn't build himself was pouring the foundation. If you actually know what you're doing, it's very possible. You'll not build much for 50K with today's material prices. Yes, lol. You just need to pay the property taxes. OP not knowing what a mortgage actually is. The fuck kinda question is this? Lol. I don't know, can you?